welcome you to the deep dive. This is where we tackle complex ideas together and try to unpack them into something clear, something useful. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating ancient text. It's the Sammādiṭṭhisuttaṃ from the Majjhima Nikaya.
Right.
And this isn't just, any old scripture. It's this profound dialogue with Venerable Sariputta, a key disciple, explaining right view.
Yeah, and our mission really is to get a handle on what right view actually means here. Sariputta presents it less as a fixed belief and more as this dynamic understanding.
An understanding that leads somewhere.
Exactly. Leads directly to freedom. What's really interesting is how the text itself unfolds. You have these monks asking again and again, okay, but is there another way to see this?
Prompting deeper explanations.
Prompting Sariputta to reveal more and more layers. It's quite structured.
Okay, so let's unpack that. We want to guide you through these layers, show how understanding all these different facets of reality builds up this straightened view, as the Sutta calls it.
Unwavering confidence and getting into the true teaching.
Right. So where does Sariputta begin? He kicks off with something that feels very down to earth, knowing the wholesome and the unwholesome.
Yeah, actions and their roots. Super practical.
It is, isn't it?
He lays out the 10 unwholesome actions: taking life, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, the list.
Idle chatter, coveting.
Right. Divisive speech, ill will, wrong view itself. But crucially, he immediately points to their roots: greed, hatred, and delusion.
Okay. Simple but powerful.
And then the wholesome is basically abstaining from those things. But importantly, having the opposite roots: non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion.
So just understanding this first action's roots, what does Sariputta say that understanding does for you?
Well, this is where it gets profound right away. Just knowing this aspect of karma, of action, allows you to start abandoning those underlying tendencies.
Like lust and aversion.
Exactly. Lust, aversion, and to uproot that deep conceit of I am, that sense of a fixed self. It helps you abandon ignorance, generate real knowledge, and this is the kicker: make an end to suffering. Right here, right now.
Wow. Just from that first step.
Yeah, and that outcome, ending suffering in this life, it echoes through everything else he explains. It's the constant refrain.
Okay. So the monks, hearing this, they ask, is there another way? And Sariputta brings up food.
Yes, food. Which sounds a bit odd at first, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you think dinner.
Right. But it's much broader. He talks about 4 kinds of food or nutriment that sustain beings, sustain us, whether we're already existing or seeking rebirth.
So what are they, besides the obvious physical stuff?
Well, there's physical food, sure, gross or subtle. But then there's contact, phassa. That's the meeting of sense, faculty, object, and consciousness, raw experience.
Oh, okay.
Then mental volition, satana. Our intentions, our choices. That drives things.
The will, sort of?
Sort of, yeah. And finally, consciousness itself. Vinya, awareness.
Consciousness is food. Interesting.
It sustains the psychophysical life, you see. And what's really key here is the pattern he applies, the origin of this food, craving.
Craving again.
It's cessation, the cessation of craving, and the path to that cessation.
Let me guess. The Noble Eightfold Path.
You got it. That path is the recurring solution.
We probably should just quickly recap that path as it keeps coming up.
Good idea. It's fundamental.
Yeah.
So right view, which is what we're defining, then right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration.
The complete toolkit.
It's the practical framework, for stopping the things that cause suffering.
Which brings us neatly to, well, suffering itself, dukkha. This is obviously central. For you listening, this might be where things really start to connect. How does Sariputta define suffering here?
He cast a wide net. Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, death is suffering. Then sorrow, lamentation, pain, physical pain, grief, and despair.
The obvious pains.
Yes, but also the more subtle ones. Being with what you dislike, being separated from what you like, not getting what you want. That constant friction.
That frustration.
Exactly. And then he summarizes it beautifully. The 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering.
Not just the aggregates themselves, but clinging to them.
Precisely. Our form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, when we grasp onto them as me or mine, that's suffering.
Okay, so what causes it? What's the origin point?
The origin is craving tahe, specifically craving that leads to renewed existence, the kind that's bound up with delight and lust.
And he breaks that craving down.
He does. Craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, just wanting to be, and even craving for non-existence, wanting annihilation. It's that thirst, that drive.
Right. And the good news, how does it stop?
The cessation comes from the complete fading away and stopping of that very craving, giving it up, letting it go, releasing it, not holding on to it, non-attachment.
And the way to that non-attachment.
Again, the Noble Eightfold Path. It's the method.
Okay, so there's a clear pattern emerging. Define the thing, find its origin in craving or something related, identify cessation with the end of that origin, and the path is always the Eightfold Path.
You've nailed it. That's the structure he uses.
Yeah.
But he doesn't stop at suffering. He keeps going deeper, layer by layer.
Right, because the monks keep asking, is there another way? And he starts unpacking this whole chain reaction, doesn't he? Dependent origination.
Exactly. He shows how right view involves understanding this entire sequence of interconnected phenomena, each link causing the next.
It's like peeling an onion back to the very core.
It is. And for each link, he applies that same analysis. What is it? What's its origin? What's its cessation? And what's the path to cessation?
And the path is always
the Noble Eightfold Path. It's incredibly systematic. This shows how liberation isn't magic. It's about understanding these causal links and applying the path.
Okay, let's try and walk through this chain then. It's detailed, but crucial. He starts with the most obvious suffering, aging and death.
Right. Understanding aging and death means knowing their origin is birth. Simple enough.
Stop birth, stop aging and death. Makes sense.
And the cessation of birth is its cessation. Path is the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so then you ask, what causes birth?
The manifestation of the aggregates, getting our senses.
Yes. Its origin is becoming, or existence bhava. He even mentions the different realms, sensual, form, formless becoming.
So wanting to exist, essentially.
In a particular way, yes. Stop becoming, stop birth, path, Noble Eightfold Path.
Okay, following so far, what causes becoming?
Clinging or grasping upadana, and he lists 4 types here, which are quite insightful.
What are they?
Clinging to sensual pleasures, clinging to views, holding rigidly to opinions.
Oh, that's a big one.
Clinging to rites and rituals, thinking the ritual itself saves you, and clinging to a doctrine of self-adavata, believing in a permanent soul or self.
So clinging fuels our continued existence.
Pretty much. Stop clinging, stop becoming. Path, Noble Eightfold Path.
And what causes clinging? We mentioned it earlier.
Craving. Dancho, this is a core link. And craving itself isn't monolithic. He lists 6 kinds based on the senses.
So craving for sights, sounds, smells, tastes.
Physical sensations and mental objects or ideas. Stop craving, stop clinging. Noble Eightfold Path is the way.
Okay. Deeper still, what's the origin of craving?
Feeling Vedana. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral sensations that arise from contact.
So the raw feeling comes first.
The feeling arises, and then we react with craving or aversion. There are 6 kinds of feeling, again linked to the 6 senses: eye contact feeling, ear contact feeling, and so on.
Stop feeling leading to craving.
And craving ceases. Use the Noble Eightfold Path.
And what causes feeling to arise?
Simple. Contact phasa, the meeting of the sense organ, the object, and consciousness. No contact, no feeling.
Like switching off the input?
In a way. 6 kinds of contact corresponding to the senses. Cessation of contact stops feeling. Path. Noble Eightfold Path.
Makes sense. What allows contact to happen?
The 6 sense bases themselves, sayatana. The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Without the receiver, there's no contact.
Right. The hardware?
Kind of. Stop the sense bases functioning in a way that leads to this chain. Contact ceases. Noble Eightfold Path.
And the origin of the 6 sense bases. We're getting deep now.
We are. It's name and form namarupa. This is basically the mind-body combination.
Okay, break that down. Name and form.
Name, nama, refers to the mental components. Feeling, perception, volition, contact, attention. The software, maybe?
Got it.
And form, rupa, is the physical part. The 4 great elements, earth, water, fire, air, and physical body derived from them.
So the whole psychophysical organism.
Exactly. When that ceases, the sense bases cease. Path. Noble Eightfold Path.
Origin of name and form.
Consciousness minyeya. The awareness that cognizes objects through the senses. Again, 6 types. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, etc.
So consciousness allows the mind-body complex to function.
It's intricately linked. Consciousness conditions name and form conditions consciousness. It's reciprocal later in the chain, but here, for this sequence, consciousness is the origin. Stop consciousness, stop name and form. Noble Eightfold Path.
Almost there. What causes consciousness to arise in this cycle?
Formation sakara, specifically volitional formations, actions driven by intention. bodily, verbal, and mental actions.
Our choices, our karma.
Essentially, yes. The karmic baggage that propels consciousness into a new existence. Stop these formations, stop consciousness arising in that way. Noble Eightfold Path.
Okay, second to last link. What's the origin of these formations? Why do we make these choices?
Because of ignorance of Vijja. And Sariputta is very specific here. Ignorance isn't just not knowing stuff.
What is it then?
It's specifically not knowing suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path to its cessation. Not understanding the Four Noble Truths.
So ignorance of the very problem and solution we've been discussing.
Exactly. That ignorance fuels the formations. Stop ignorance. Stop the formations. Noble Eightfold Path is how you stop ignorance.
And finally, the root of ignorance itself.
The taints or defilements asava. These are the deepest outflows, the corruptions. He lists three. The taint of sensual pleasure, the taint of becoming existence, and the taint of ignorance itself.
Ignorance feeding itself.
It's a deep root. When these taints are completely abandoned, ignorance ceases. And the path to abandoning the taint.
It's a Noble Eightfold Path.
One last time, yes.
Wow. That is incredibly thorough, methodical. It shows how right view isn't just one thing, but this deep, interconnected understanding.
It really does, from our everyday actions right back to the deepest roots of ignorance.
So let's recap where we've journeyed. We went through Sariputta's whole explanation of right view, started with the very practical ethics, wholesome, unwholesome actions, and their roots.
Greed, hatred, delusion.
Then that interesting concept of the four foods: physical, contact, volition, consciousness.
Right, what sustains us in the cycle.
Then the core teaching on suffering dukkha, what it is, its origin and craving, its cessation, and the path.
The Four Noble Truths essentially applies specifically.
And finally, we trace that whole chain of dependent origination, link by interconnected link, all the way from aging and death back to ignorance and the underlying taints.
And what's so powerful, as you said, is that consistent framework. For every single element, know it, know its origin, know its cessation, and know the path to cessation.
Which is always.
The Noble Eightfold Path. It hammers home that understanding and practice are inseparable. The understanding is a core part of the path.
So, thinking about this for you, listening, Sariputta's Sutta, it's clearly not just some dusty old text. It feels more like like a diagnostic manual for our own minds.
That's a good way to put it. A manual for understanding why we experience things the way we do and how to navigate it.
A path to self-understanding, really, and navigating existence.
Deep self-understanding.
So, the final thought from us for this deep dive. How deeply do you feel you understand the connections in your own life? Your reactions, your feelings, your choices, how they link together.
Yeah, reflecting on this chain Sariputta laid out, what part of it feels most resonant or maybe most surprising to you? What insight about right view, about these interconnected causes and effects, might actually shift how you see things or how you act moving forward? Something to really mull over.